good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world tuning in to our Film School 101 panel. We have some special guests here with us today. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I know in the Caribbean, film school is something that is kind of a foreign concept for a lot of people. So I came up with this idea for this panel so that we can, encourage anyone who has this dream of becoming a filmmaker and to see that this is a viable academic path for you. Of course, not everyone has to go through film school to become a filmmaker, but I think it's important for our young people and to know that this is an option. So I'm going to introduce my guests here today, and they will be introducing themselves and giving us some background into their personal relationship to film school. So let's begin with Melanie Grant.
Hi. So you just want me to talk a little bit about my background?
Yeah. Did you graduate film school? Are you teaching? Just a synopsis of that.
Yeah, so I did the sort of film program at UE. At the time, it was EBCCI at Cave Hill. And now it's currently sort of merged with cultural studies, and they're called the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts. But yeah, I did that undergraduate degree, and then I went on to do my master's in visual anthropology because I wanted to combine research with film. And then I came back to Barbados and teaching at Cave Hill in the same program that I studied in, teaching some of the courses that I studied as well. So that's been fun. But yeah, that's my sort of journey and connection to film school.
Welcome. I'm Kaleb.
Hey everyone. I came to London from Jamaica in 2019, and I did a MA in filmmaking, specializing in directing. That was supposed to be a one-year master, so I was supposed to finish in 2020, but I actually finished in 2021, pandemic. And then I graduated about 2 weeks ago. So finished January 2021, graduated end of April 2022. So it's been an interesting journey. And I have recently started teaching at UE Mono. I teach the film directing course at UE Mono. I just did that this year.
Welcome. And last but not least, Adjani Salmon.
Hey, so my name is Adjani Salmon. I'm a writer, director, and actor. And I went to Met Film School in London in 2013. So clearly, me I do this kind of longer than people, but yeah. So I have a master's in, I used to do short courses when I'd save up a film academy and the short courses. And in the end of 2013, I came up to London to go to Met Film School to do a master's in directing film. And been working ever since then.
So my first question, I wanted to know what got you all interested in film and what made you want to study film? Adjani, you want to go first?
I just kind of thought it was fun. I never really think too deep in it. I went to school to the architecture. So it was only until there's one summer when a cousin came down from England and he was studying film in England. And I was kind of just driving him around doing helping him with shoots and stuff. And him there I met money from doing it. And I was like, yo, this mad. So I'm gonna just follow him. But I was working in Jamaica for about 3 years before I came up for film school. But I would say I did that because I guess within 3 years, I was already assistant editing on Project Runway, Mission Catwalk, BT lifestyle shows and all of them things there. But I felt like as much as I was doing commercials and corporate films and all these reality shows, it wasn't narrative. And yeah, but they're just research directors to see like how them get into the industry. And for me, it was very much, from at least my research of my favorite filmmakers, it was very much either being on set loads or going to film school. But being that Jamaican really make films that often, I figured I wouldn't get. Like, it'd take a really long time to get experience on a film set if them not make films. So yeah, but just start look up film schools, and then yeah, came to London because, to be honest, I went to the cheapest film school I researched. Met Film School was 15 grand. New York Film Academy was 40 grand. Yeah, it just makes sense.
Kaleb?
My background is in acting. So from a kid, I was doing acting and theater stuff, and so there's obviously an interest in like drama, storytelling, things like that. And when I got to UA, I decided to do some screenwriting courses. Well, I decided to do like creative writing courses, and then I did a screenwriting course, and Storm taught it at the time. And I think, and at the time, I recently found out he was actually developing Sprinter. Fun fact. So we were talking a lot about that at the other day. Anyway, and he was really the one that pushed me. He was like, yo, like, this is good, because I created a project which I'm now, how many years later, in a film lab with for a feature film. But I created this, I was, first time writing a film. I wrote this project and the treatment and stuff. And he was like, yo, like, you should think about being a screenwriter. And he pushed me to go to TTFF. They had a film, like a film lab, or like a development lab, basically, for emerging filmmakers. And to apply, I had to have made a film. So, and I never made a film before. So I just got me and my friends and, just did something, and that got me in. And so when I went to TTFF, that was the first time where I saw like Caribbean films and a plethora of like just Black Caribbean films on the big screen, and to know that they were being made by people that were my age or a little bit older than me, like, the idea of being a filmmaker to me just seemed, I never thought about it, because it's like, who makes films? I don't know, guys from foreign, you know what I mean? And so to know that there was just this diverse pool of people in Trinidad and all over the world, because TTFF is a big Caribbean international film festival. And from there, I guess, like, yo, let me try and make another film and get it into a festival this time. So I did that. I made another film, and that got into a lot of festivals, and I got the opportunity to like travel to these festivals, and now getting the opportunity to like actually, okay, live, I don't know, experience what it's like to do this. And so that was around 2017, 18, and I just made the decision, you know what? Similar to what Adjani said, like, I really wanted to dive more into film as a director, though. Like, I felt like I was looking around, because I was getting involved, a little bit with the film scene in Jamaica, but I felt like if I was supposed to work as a filmmaker in Jamaica, if I was supposed to earn a living from it, I would also have to be a DP. And I didn't have, or have another skill. And I didn't have those skills, because the biggest directors in Jamaica, when I was looking at it, were also DPs. And I didn't really have that drive to shoot as well. And so, yeah, I decided to come to London and hustle the money and figure it out to come here. I mean, America, a lot of people ask me why I never go to America, and it just seemed similar to Adjani, like a cost thing, but then also like I have family in Jamaica and I have family in London, and I felt like it probably would have been easier for me to navigate this space a little bit more. And I don't know, something about film school here seemed more open to I don't know, thinking like making films against the traditional like Hollywood model. I mean, a lot of American film schools, I'm sure, probably is a great funnel into that big film industry in America, but there was something about kind of just doing something a little bit more experimental, or a little bit more, what do I want to say, like indie, with like coming to film school in the UK just seemed more like the route I wanted to take.
And Melanie, what was your decision-making process about for film?
Well, it was as simple as my dad told me that I need to pick a degree and study something. So my background was really at the time photography and fine arts, and the closest thing at UE was and theater. So I decided, okay, I never really dealt with the moving image before, never really filmed anything. So I walked into it a bit blind, not knowing like what would come of it. But I thought, how hard would it be? You know, I understand the still image. Now I just have to film scenes, and I had really very little understanding of it at the time. And I did it, and I just fell in love with the moving image at that point. And luckily in Barbados, as a Barbadian, you get access to sort of UE for free. So I did not have to pay for that degree. So I was fortunate in that sense. And then my second degree, like I said, I wanted to go more into like the combination of film and research. I still did a lot of filming during that degree, even though it's not specifically a film degree. And it was more affordable to do visual anthropology than to do like a specialized, say, if I had to do it again, I might say I want to specialize in cinematography, but the course fees, it still would have been way more expensive. So yeah, that was sort of my path, starting from photography and then moving to studying film. And then through my time at UE, learning different things, taking different courses, I realized that I like that, like I said, that combination between research and film. So I did my other degree using film as sort of a base, but then combining it with anthropology. So that's sort of, yeah, what I did.
So for people who are watching who don't know where to start, what was the application process like for you guys? Was there anything unique about the application process for your film program? Melanie?
Not really. It was pretty straightforward. They wanted like samples of your work. So I just had a lot of photographs at the time, and they just wanted to know like what is motivating you to pursue the degree. But it wasn't that difficult. So it was harder to apply for a degree abroad. What I found, it was way harder to apply for my master's than it was to apply to UE. So that process was not really sort of intimidating at all. Yeah.
And Kaleb and Adjani, you studied in the UK. What was the application like for you?
Yeah, similarly, it was an online application, but I know that so on my program, you could either specialize in directing, producing, editing, sound, or cinematography. And I think with all the other, like there's some specializations that were easier supposedly to get into because not a lot of people apply. So like sound and editing, I think, were two of the easier ones. And then with cinematography, there's a lot of people that probably never really worked, like Melanie, never really, background is in photography or visual arts and have now kind of transitioned into cinematography or trying to do that. So, and you could also focus on the cinematography as like a camera operator or a DP. And so then it kind of even became more specialized, like whether you're looking more so at the lighting side of things or the technical side of things. And, so that's kind of interesting. But I know for the directing pathway, you had to have made a film. Like the school Goldsmiths was a lot more interested in your voice and like why do you want to be a director? And you had to have made something before. And I know that a lot of directing is the most subscribed pathway. And a lot of people either didn't get in because either they have made something, but I don't know, maybe their track record or their background didn't show that they were that interested, or they've never made anything. And, So there are a few producers I know that were like applied for directing, but then ended up going into the producing pathway because they didn't get in. And then there are some people who applied to the producing pathway because they, were just interested in producing. But it was pretty straightforward. You just had to have made something, preferably more than one thing. And I know that my lecturer has like really tried to get people from diverse backgrounds as well. So not just racially, but also like what's your background been in? I know the year before me, there are a lot more older directors on the course, people that were working in opera for the last 30 years and now suddenly wants to do, directing or doing something else for 20 years and is now moving into directing. Whereas my year, I think we were all kind of in the same age group and we're all just film fanatics. So, yeah.
Adjani, was it a similar experience for you when you were applying?
Yeah. I feel like applying to any school is, especially a master's, you just need a degree to do a master's and work. If you've made a film, great. If not, then I get like we did have somebody in our course who didn't have a film but had a degree in philosophy. So it just depends, man. These are the schools, you know what I mean? But yeah, similar.
What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about film school, Adjani?
I mean, it's not even, I would say specific to film school, but I feel like it's any degree, like the assumption that you're going to somehow have a career after you finish university. But I feel like that's stretched across any degree, including architecture, which I have a degree in. So, is that like I remember when I got into film school, my mom's friend was up here and asked me why I applied for film school. What kind of body in a business? It's like it's the one industry where no one cares about your degree. They only care if you're good. So, and I was like, oh, but more like meet people, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, listen, within 3 years, 50% of everybody who you graduate with is no longer in the industry.
Wow.
And statistically, only 5% of film graduates ever make a feature film. So, yeah.
Let's try not to scare away people now.
No. It's just that you have to know why you go to school, but the idea that you go just go to school and things are, I mean, again, for anybody who have any degree in anything, them know, say, it no guarantee you work in your field. So I just think, film school is the same thing.
Yeah. Kaleb, what do you think is the most common misconception about film school?
Yeah, I echo all of that. I mean, and even when you come, like myself, I came to film school, to get the learning and stuff, but I'm going to be here in London. Like, I don't know anybody. So I was like, I'm going to come, I'm going to make all these contacts and obviously make this grad film, and that's going to push my career. And then COVID happened. And it's now like I'm starting from zero. It feels like, in some ways, it feels like I went to film school, but then in other ways, it's like I'm out here in the wilderness just trying to make it. You know what I mean? Like, just like anybody else in London who probably went to film school or didn't go to film school, and they're just trying to use their resources and their contacts to make it. So you really have to have a love and a passion for what you do. And I guess also another misconception might be that your grad film is going to be the thing that starts your career or is going to be this amazing film. You know what I mean? Like, I think like even Adjani said it to me before I did mine, like, it's going to be a good film, but like, don't have that misconception, because even I'm sure he went through that as well. Like, this is going to be the thing. And then you think, and you always hear that and you think, but mine is going to be the thing. And then it ends up being like all the others, which are good films, but not the thing that makes you win a BAFTA necessarily, So it's like, you have to, don't be discouraged as well. Like, go through the process and don't be discouraged that, I don't know, Cannes didn't accept your graduation film from some random school, some random film school. You know what I mean? Like it kind of doesn't really work like that. Sometimes maybe, I'm sure there's that 1% that it works for, but it usually doesn't.
Melanie, do you have anything to add?
I would agree with everything that's been said so far. I think if we're talking about specific schools and specific degrees, like for me, looking at my students, I think some of them come in and think every second you're hands-on with a camera, and that theory is not important. But I guess, like I said, depending on the school, there is a usual balance of practical and theory, and the theory is pretty important, in my opinion. So I think sometimes people think, oh, you're just going to be with the camera and that's the most important thing. But I think balancing it out, and have it with the theory and practical is important too. Yeah.
And what do you think has been the biggest benefit for you from studying film, Melanie?
Biggest benefit studying film, getting to do what I want to do. Outside of that, I think it's the things that I've learned from the films that I've made, and being able to go to school and have a space where you can experiment in terms of, like, I've experimented with, do I prefer narrative? Do I prefer fiction? Do I want to make surrealist cinema? Do I want to make more third cinema? Like, you have this space where, yes, you're getting graded, but you're not being judged as heavily as if you're putting a film into a festival. So I felt like I had more freedom to just explore who I was as an artist and my own voice and what I wanted to do with my work. So I think that was the greatest thing, that I had this space where I could just experiment freely. You have the support, you have the equipment there, that you can rent for free. So yeah, that was, and those films really did help me get into the festival world and start my film journey. So I think, and it was because I was allowed so much experimentation and freedom in that space. So I think, yeah, that was my biggest takeaway.
Kaleb, what about you?
Yeah, I echo that. Just to be able to commit a year to be creative and do film work and really be in that world for a year. I guess especially for people who is somewhat new for, it's like it gives you the opportunity to learn about the industry, even though, film school and the kind of real world film industry are often two different things, which we'll probably talk about. But it gives you a year just to say, yeah, I'm just going to make films, and you have 50, 60 other people who are in the same boat as you. And so you get to, either you're making films for school or you're making films with just as a hobby with these new filmmaker friends that you've met. Some of them probably already working in the industry, and so you get jobs from them. And that's probably been the biggest benefit for me. I guess because, like, those are my first contacts, those are my first resources here. And so I've been working in the industry since, so that's been a benefit because of these contacts that I made in film school.
Adjani, what has been the biggest benefit for you?
Yeah, as I said, just echoing what Melanie and Kaleb said, but I think to expand on it a little bit is, like, in finding yourself as an artist as she says, a safe space to explore, and concentrated learning. So, like, in my course, it was a year. I made 7 films that year. 7 films where every draft of every script was critiqued. Every shot list was scrutinized. Every decision I made for an actor was challenged. Every cut in every edit was critiqued. So that level of, like, output, learn from your mistakes, try again, learn from your mistakes, try again, in the safe environment. And not only did I make 7 films, but there were 10 other people in my class. So 7 times 10, you're talking, I've seen the process of 70 films get made in a year. Whereas, yes, I may not have been experimental but I had friends who were. So I'd be able to watch them make them film noir and say, all right, cool, what good about that or what bad about that or what we can take from that. So I do think it's the concentrated learning that you get. And like Melanie said as well, theory, like understanding just craft. Like, I think that is the key thing where you get is just building your craft.
Yeah. Is there anything you would do differently if you could start over film school? Any of you? No? Johnny?
Good, man. Like, my career is quite fine as it is.
Maybe, but you know, everything is in hindsight, right? So
Right.
it's one of those things where you probably have to go through the process to come out on the other side with the knowledge that you have now. But I feel like when I started film school, there was a part in the middle of it where, you know, you're new to an environment, you're new to a space as well. Like in my case, London is a different space, and a lot of the students I'm in class with, like, don't understand me. You know, I'm the only Black director on the course. I'm the only, you know, like, they don't understand some of the nuance that, and even some of the storytelling I probably want to bring to the table. And so there is a time where I probably felt like, oh, you know, maybe I can't, maybe I shouldn't, or this is, maybe I'll just do what everyone else is kind of going along with, or expecting me to do. Because there's a lot of, like, I guess just insecurity, you know, that builds up over time as well. Because as Adjani said, it's like, it's intense. It can be intense. And there's a lot of people questioning you. And then sometimes the lines between the art and you as a person can get blurred. But you kind of have to, or in my case, like, had to go through that whole process to come out on the other side going, well, actually, no, I do know who I am, and I do know, like, what I want to do, and I do know how I want to do it. But it can sometimes in the middle feel like, you know, I don't know. There's just a lot of, like, insecurities, maybe. Yeah.
So to switch gears a bit, you know, maybe film school may not be feasible for everyone. Do you have some advice for anyone who wants to become a filmmaker and can't access film school? What advice would you give them to better themselves, their craft, and improve and learn? Melanie?
There's so many resources online, you know, especially, like, given the pandemic and the shift to online and online learning and online schooling. There are a lot of, like I said, resources there. Some for free, like YouTube, and some that you don't have to pay as much as doing a whole degree. So there's that, or there's also, like, mentorship, and I think that is something that in the Caribbean we do need more of, like, that partnering with a filmmaker who's in the industry, who's in a space in their career where they've taken those steps, and, like, guiding someone through that. So I think there's also that, finding someone who can mentor you, and learning through practice. We don't have access to working on feature films and stuff all the time, because they are few and far between in most of the islands. But even if it's working on, like, commercials, getting that sort of knowledge through practice. So yeah, they're different ways of learning film outside of school, for sure.
Kaleb and Adjani, do you have anything to add to that?
Just, I guess, find your tribe. Find a tribe of people. Like, if you don't have, obviously, again, everybody don't have access to mentors, which is understandable. But if you can find, like, when I just start getting a film, me and my two cousins, them used to made a web series. It's like 14 episodes or something like that. But it was literally just us who were at the time unemployed, and we had a couple of brethren who just graduated UA, who were also unemployed. And it was just like, yo, I have one idea, boom, do it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's finding your people who you can make stuff with. And I was like, don't hold back yourself from, like, your film will be shit. Just accept that. Your first couple of films will be shit, but that's not the point. The point is to make it, understand why it's shit, and then make another one. And I'd say actually the faster you do that, the better. So don't hold yourself back and say, why? We need a red, or we need this lens, or we want to shoot a zombie thing. Brother, if you don't know how to do VFX, don't stress yourself. Like, it's learning the craft through doing, like Melody said, but I'd say don't. Like, sometimes we get caught up with the gadgets. You know, you want a zoom lens, or you want this follow focus, la 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 la. Forget all of that. If you can't, like, if you were to give every filmmaker a iPhone and say make a film, the top filmmakers in the world would still make the best film with an iPhone. So, like, I'd say don't stress the equipment, just like for learning purposes, just focus on getting it made, critiquing it, learning your editing, your cinematography, your mise-en-scène. That, yeah, that's something to say.
Kaleb?
Piggyback off of that, I think people are more willing to help you than not. And so it's so important just to reach out. Like, and it may sound scary to a lot of people. That's like, oh, but you know, you're viewing this filmmaker as, you know, bigger than you, I guess, in some ways, because they're where you want to be, and you think, oh, no, I can't. No. Just say, hey, I'm interested in, like, helping out on your next set. Like, you probably don't even know the terms, but, like, you know, start as a runner. Like, I'll grab the tea and the coffee and whatever for everybody. Like, that's the way in which you're going to learn how a set even runs. And yeah, like, go to the film festivals. There's a lot more Caribbean film festivals happening, just popping up in the past few years, you know, like, go, like, speak to those people that are in charge of those festivals. See if you can help out with anything with the festival, curating festival. Like, let's say they don't have let's say your island doesn't have a big film scene. You know, you can be a part of the film festival and then get connected to other filmmakers in other islands that way. And then hopefully you can take a leap of faith and go to maybe an island that's slightly bigger than yours, and then just work your way up that way and spread your reach far, because people are more willing to help you than not. And there's a lot of places in the Caribbean now where a lot of productions are in islands, you know, but it's just that a lot of these things come and go, and people probably in that space don't know about it because they're not in that circle. And you're not going to know about something or learn about something sitting down at home wondering how you're going to get there. You have to reach out. And so, yeah, that would honestly just be my advice. Like, just, yeah, send a message, send an email, and just offer your time and your energy. And for a lot of people, it is difficult because you're probably juggling a full-time job, or, you know, you probably have children, you probably have responsibilities. Yeah. But if you really want to do it, you're going to have to find the time, I guess. I don't know.
And I just want to jump in and say, actually read film books, big man thing. Even if it's the immediate one, then, like, I have personal reservations against shit like Save the Cat. But, like, reading Save the Cat is better than not reading it. You see what I'm saying? Like, and I would say, and again, this goes for any type of school. Because I had no background in film, I started reading the reading list for the first time ever. I never read a reading list in a no degree yet. And the more I read the reading list, the more I realize that the tutors know that nobody can read the fucking reading list. So actually, all they do is parrot the books. And the more they start reading, like, by the time I go 5-6 books in, I start go class and realize that the tutor literally just quote the book, but not reference the book to make it seem like a film idea. So actually, ask people who you know go film school and say, yo, what your reading list? Buy the book then. Boom, that's how you.
That's 100% what I do in my film course. 100%. They think it's me? It's not me.
So now I'm going to move to some of the questions from the chat. So this one is for Melanie. This is Rory in St. Vincent. He said he loved your film from last year's festival. He's really interested in your study of visual anthropology. Can you share one of the key takeaways from that course?
First of all, thank you. That film was actually from my course, my thesis film. Key takeaways. If you have a camera, you have access to spaces that other people might not. And I don't sort of take that for granted and take advantage of that. But if you're interested in something, if you're interested in a space, a lot of people would say, you know what, you can build a relationship with them first outside of the film. But people have opened their homes to me as a stranger and supported me in making my film, given interviews, let me into spaces, into their houses. Like, they're so welcoming. And that's the style of filmmaking I really like, because you get to go into spaces that you're curious about, and then a documentary could come out of that, or research for a fiction film could come out of that. So I really enjoyed that. Also, I think there needs to be more visual research and visual documentation in the Caribbean. When I studied my degree, it was always like outsiders coming into different spaces and documenting. But I think we can document for ourselves. Like, we're starting to become trained in it. And we have filmmakers who can have the tools to document these aspects of our culture. So if you're interested in that, documenting Caribbean culture, I would say definitely do it and understand sort of that anthropological basis and how you can use film to sort of conduct research, how you can use the camera to conduct research. So yeah, that's what I would say.
The next question is directed to all of you. What film schools would you recommend in the Caribbean or elsewhere, or places that you can do shorter film courses? Any recommendations?
Not really a film school per se, but I think JAFTA, Jamaica Film and Television Association in Jamaica, has been really good in the last few years, really developing a kind of film community in Jamaica, and opportunities for so many filmmakers. I mean, they're who I'm doing the film lab with now, and this is the third year of them doing this film lab, and I'm the only filmmaker in the lab, or participant in the lab that went to film school, and I'm one of 2 people in the lab, I think, that have made a film before, so it's 7 other people who are in different walks of life, different areas, industries in Jamaica, who have a passion for filmmaking, storytelling, and have chosen to develop that skill in this film lab. So, and they have many other labs, and many other opportunities, and many different screenings, and just a whole lot of opportunities for anybody to get into the industry, even if you're just as a viewer, as a participant, as a budding filmmaker, storyteller yourself. JAFTA is always my kind of go-to. And then, but there are also other spaces. I mean, what was it? I'm just kind of looking back at the question. I feel like even if not JAFTA, like going back to the conversation, like UWI has, I know that UWI has a film degree in Jamaica now with Carmack, and then one in Trinidad, which has been around for a few years. But even if you let's say you can't afford to go to UWI for whatever reason, and you're probably also collaborating, but you want other options. There's so many other, I would say, opportunities to get involved in the industry, whether that's through music videos, working in the music industry, and a lot of people have or have gotten a few friends of mine in Jamaica got interested or involved in film from music. You know, they were just being on set, helping out with artists and different ways. And then they were like, yo, let me help you shoot this thing, or let me, you know, so that kind of music video industry that we have. Or even social media or media companies. Before I went to film school, I worked at a company for 6 months doing video editing, and I've never done any video editing before. They just liked the fact that I was interested in storytelling, and they were like, all right, we'll spend the first 2 weeks with you just doing all these quick courses that we have in video editing. And that's how I got to learn how to use Premiere Pro and Photoshop and all these other software that people use in the industry, right? So maybe if you're thinking, okay, you know, you're a young person and you're probably looking for your next job. And yes, it is a lot of work working in media companies, a lot of work. But that might be a nice avenue as well, just to learn, for you to learn, you know, tips and tricks and trades in the industry.
Any other recommendations for film schools or courses? No?
I mean, well, you have all the campuses like Kaleb mentioned, and each has developed their own sort of film program. Don't know too much about St. Augustine or Mona's and their specific focus, but each campus seems to have their, I think directing and producing is more Mona. No? Would you say, Kaleb?
It's a BA in film production, so they learn a little bit of everything.
Okay. Yeah, at Cave Hill, you take a special, I mean, it's changing now since the merger with cultural studies, but you can do film and dance or film and theater. So you do get a feel for both of those disciplines, and you do a specialization. And I think St. Augustine has film, they do a lot of film theory, and they have a documentary specialization as well. So checking out what each one offers and to see which might be the best fit. But I mean, all of them cover all aspects of the discipline, but each campus seems to have a bit of a specialization. So yeah.
And then the next question, sorry to put you on the spot, but the question is asking, do you have any recommended reading list for film studies? Anyone, can you remember?
Yeah, so I saw I saw that actually, and I was already comedy telling somebody the other day. I can type it in the chat, but as well. But there's a book for me. The most helpful screenwriting books were Screenplay by Sid Field, Story by Robert McKee, and On Filmmaking by Alexander McKendrick. I can write that in the chat so that them have it, but I think those, I've read much more. But in terms of like, not just like, this is the formula, but really understanding just the craft of engaging suspense, tension, like moving the story forward, revealing characters through action, that stuff. I feel like those books were probably the most useful to me, but I can write it in the chat.
Can put it in the chat and we'll get it to them. Any other recommended reading from our other panelists?
I would probably include in that, like, as a condensed beginner's book. I think it's called, I'm gonna tell you right now, it is called Directing Film Techniques and Aesthetics by Michael Rabiger and Mick Herbis-Sherrier. I think it's just a really good introductory book which has, yeah, kind of, it touches on all aspects of the film industry, filmmaking, and cinematography, directing, things like that, but in a really like palatable way for anyone who probably just has an interest in filmmaking and is like, okay, I would say read that book. It has lots of pictures as well, which is helpful as a kind of visual. Yeah, it's a thick book because it goes through so much. But as I said, it's very introductory, so anyone can read it.
And I'm going to do one more question from the chat and then we'll close. They say that one benefit of studying is networking or meeting future collaborators. To what extent, in your experience, is this true? This goes out to any of you to answer.
I feel like it just helps you in finding your tribe. Like that group of people who you can kind of be underground making stuff with. Like for me now, still, the friends who I have from film school are the people who I send my scripts to for notes or feedback. I send my edits to. Just people who you can bounce off or who you know still in it and kind of have the same level of understanding, or people's work who you respect. So yeah, the web series I made, Dreaming Whilst Black, I also made with everybody from film school. Like the actors I met, the directors I met, the people, like, so yeah, it just helped you build that network of friendship to just keep moving together with, you know what I mean? That's your tribe. At least that's where I found my tribe. Because again, like Kaleb, when we come up here, I never really know nobody. So it's people at school who did meet who were the first film people that I met.
Do you both agree?
Yeah, and I think also networking and the relationships that you foster help you to diversify your craft as well. Because like most jobs in the creative field, there's a lot of doing it for free or doing it for little to no money. And if you don't have the benefit of family or whatever in a space, then you're going to have to pay your rent, you're going to have to do things. So it's good to kind of learn other tips and tricks and trades in the industry. And even if you come to film school to study cinematography, but you have to probably know all the different, you have this big aspiration of being a DP, but you might have to start as, I don't know all the roles, or I can't remember all the roles in that department right now, but you know what I mean? You're probably you're not going to be a DP first. And I think even for myself, like learning how to AD was a big trick, because that's kind of what's been paying my bills, you know what I mean? And it also gives me the experience of being on more sets, networking more, and also helping me to think about, okay, for my next project, which I will write or direct or both, what are the things that I'm learning from all these sets that I've been on that I can bring to the table? So yeah.
All right, do you have any last words to add, Melanie?
I want to add on a previous question as well, because it just came to mind. I'm not sure at the moment about going to study in Cuba, but Cuba does have great film schools. So I just wanted to put that out there. And if you're interested in, say, animation, Trinidad has a good animation school. But back to that question about networking. For example, my last film that I made it in St. Vincent, and the people I called up were two people who had studied the same degree in Barbados. That I didn't really know them from campus, but I knew that they studied the degree. I knew of them and of their work, and so one acted as producer and one acted as camera op, and yeah, that's just an example of being able to connect with people through film schools. And yeah, I definitely agree that it is a space that helps with networking and like Adjani said, finding your tribe, for sure.
Finding your tribe, that's so important. Well, thank you to all of you for joining us today. the audience, and of course our esteemed panel. We really learned a lot and got some good advice and tips for anyone who wants to get into film and study film. So thanks again for taking the time out in your day to be with us. Thanks again. Have a good day. Bye.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys.